The sanctions, for example, are not, visible violence, but they do have the same amount of hurt as a bomb. As many people can die from a bomb as they could do from sanctions. I have been serving as a diplomat since 2010, but I worked in politics and foreign relations since 2005. I've been witness to a process of transformation in my country during the last 20 years that I think, that when I was growing up, I didn't think I would see. We grew up in a moment where neoliberalism was expanding over Venezuela, it was being implemented, and what you had, the result was not a better life, but rather, growing inequality, growing poverty. Our parents didn't know if our future was going to be better than their lives had been. I was actually chargé d'affaires at the embassy in the United States. The time I served in the United States was also a very difficult time because it was right when President Trump was elected for office. The moment of the biggest aggression against Venezuela started taking place.
The Venezuelan people are starving and their country is collapsing. This situation is completely unacceptable and we cannot stand by and watch.
So it's difficult to be a diplomat in a place that is closing doors, that doesn't believe in diplomacy, that doesn't want to recognize your presence. Even meetings, for example, they will call meetings for different diplomats of Latin America, and sometimes we will be excluded by being Venezuela. Or then you see that some group of countries will not want to join us because they were afraid that having a close relationship with Venezuela would get them in trouble with the United States. So it was a difficult time, but I think we've learned from that experience as well, and all those elements added together help us have a better view of the world and develop better capabilities to address the challenges. It's important because in diplomacy, the key factor is that you're able to talk and that you're able to meet with people. When those things start closing out, we left a moment where Venezuelan diplomacy was subjected to other countries' interests. Now, it was also difficult because the idea or the image that was being sold about Venezuela as a country that was violating human rights or, doing all these things that the United States criticized. Venezuela has been doing a very important political project, what we call a revolution of inclusion, of social transformation. And because that somehow goes against the intended purposes of interest in the United States, the interest they had over Venezuela, then the result is that there's a media campaign against what we're doing. They try to hide our achievements. They try to portray Venezuela as a country that doesn't represent, the values, the democratic values, at least that they promote. And people will find out that Venezuela has a very different story to tell.
The CNN of the United States, la BBC de Londres se ha vuelto una cosa terrible, horrible.
It's very tough that you have to come and, it places you on the defensive. You're not being defensive on an even level. You're being defensive on a narrative that was already built against you and that you had, no chance to explain. So if you're talking with somebody, you have to spend twice as much time first trying to erase the view that they have because it's inaccurate, and then trying to explain what really happened. It's an added level of difficulty in doing our job as diplomats. Historically, Venezuela would know about other countries through the eyes of the United States, through the eyes of Europe, and not through our own eyes. Western media has also somehow tried to hide the achievements of China, or even because we look at China through the eyes of other people. Then we can come here and see China with our own eyes and then realize, there's a lot of many interesting things, many rich things that we can learn from Chinese society, even that we can be inspired by. I think the achievements, especially, the alleviation of poverty that has been remarkable in China, over 700 million people leaving poverty, is amazing and is something that I think we want to learn about. Well, you see, the history of imperialism in this region of Latin America is over 200 years old. This year exactly marks the 200th anniversary of the Monroe Doctrine. And that's when the United States says that the whole American continent was closed to foreign intervention. But what they really meant was that, not that it was close to foreign intervention, but it was only open to U.S. intervention. And historically, the U.S. has seen all of Latin America, not only Venezuela, but all of Latin America as some sort of property of its. It has the right to determine, what goes on and what doesn't, and who we relate with and so forth. So that history has damaged our possibilities of better development because it's a constant presence. It's a constant attack. In some countries, it has been violent, coup d'etats, invasions, governments overthrown, people disappear, successions of parts of country. This has been a history that we have seen that has been very violent. Nowadays, that violence is not so visible because they do it in other ways that are more subtle. The sanctions, for example, are not, visible violence, but they do have the same amount of hurt as a bomb. As many people can die from a bomb as they could do from sanctions. The Venezuelan economy has been hurt significantly because of the illegal U.S. sanctions. If you look about the income that the country has not able to receive because of the sanctions, since 2015, we have probably lost somewhere around $232 billion in revenue for the country. There's some studies that you may see that have been done even by independent researchers in the United States. And they say that, maybe the first year of the sanctions under the Trump administration, they say that they might have been amounted to about 40,000 deaths because of the impact on the health system. And that number, maybe it's even bigger, large, it's hard to actually measure. But there has been significant damage, not only to the economy, but also to everyday life, in the sense that not being able, for example, to import spare parts, things to repair the waterworks or the electricity, somehow affects people's daily lives. So the way to confront this is strengthening our own system, strengthening our own convictions and and not giving up to them. Some countries during these 200 years have made the mistake of trying to not assert their own ideas, try to go the path of imperialism to see if things improve, and they don't. And they'll never improve because they're not going to follow our interests, they're following somebody else's interests. So I think the best confrontation method is to reassert our interests, to reassert our commitment to people's dignity, and to make sure that we do everything we can with our resources and with the tools that we have to maintain our position and be firm. Because only when you confront them is that they really have to back off.